Welcome to another hard-hitting edition of Tackling a New Kingdom. I am your host, Tank Johnson. Today, we have hands down one of my all-time favorite guests on the show. Let me catch my breath here. This man comes from the legendary Weeks family of Atlantic City, New Jersey, USA. You know the family with the famous Black Prohibition-era bootleggers, ran with the legendary Prohibition-era kingpin, Enoch Lewis Nucky Johnson, famous from Boardwalk Empire. His family owned a minor league baseball team, the Baccarat Giants, and ran a jazz tavern that hosted the likes of Duke Ellington and Ella Fitzgerald. But that's just his namesake. For my guest has lived a professional life Antonio Brown would be jealous of. He started educated at NYU and worked with the likes of Terrence Howard and Sean Puffy Combs. He's a world-renowned and published mixologist, a lifestyle curator, and a budding fashion icon with the brand Hudson. Reginald, I am out of breath. Let me introduce my esteemed guest, Brother Reginald Weeks. Brother Reg, how are you doing, sir?
I'm feeling good today. I'm feeling good, and good.
Listen, man, part of tackling a new kingdom is just that, me tackling the kingdom after football. And you are one of my favorite, one of the reasons that I got on Instagram and social media was for inspiration. And I scour the internet high and low for people who I just get inspired by, and you're definitely one of them. So thank you for being on the show today.
Appreciate that.
Okay, let's get going. So on my show, we tackle things in three buckets. We're going to tackle something current, something real, and finally something controversial. And today, in tackling something current, I want to touch on the Great Migration to Atlanta and how it's changed the Atlanta as you know it. Everyone thought that Hollywood was the place to go and live out your dreams. We're learning now that that's Atlanta. As a native and not a native, but a transplant and a resident, tell me about the Great Migration to Atlanta.
Wow. I'll tell you, I think we've had two, like the way I saw it. I think there was a heyday like around my parents' time when we kind of took over as mayor. And, a lot of Black money came in. And then, what was I'm trying to think of what mayor, famous mayor of Atlanta back in the 70s. But, he gave out a lot of contracts, which, trickle down economics. A lot of Black families moved up. Everybody was getting money. Then you had, the athletes here, and Atlanta became like a Black Mecca back then. I think we had a lull for a while in the in the 80s, well, really in the late 90s. But now, we are back stronger than ever. I've never seen nothing like it in Atlanta. And I've been here off and on since 88. And that's a long time. And I've seen it go through its waves. But I really think that kind of how we saw in the record business is kind of like knowledge comes, technology comes. And, P put us on. He was the one that kind of broke ground and said, you know what, why are we paying them to do all this music? We could do it ourselves. And I think that, like you said, with film, I saw it go because I was in film after I went to NYU. And I used to have to travel a lot. I was in New York, I was in LA and going back and forth just to do the jobs. And then all of a sudden, people realize, well, we don't need to go to Atlanta. We can do it right here. Then you got people like Tyler Perry pop up. You've got all the big studios come. And then they all realize, well, why are we going out there? We could all do it here. So that was a real big change. People realizing I can go get this equipment myself. I can shoot it right here, stay right here at home. I don't have to go to LA and go behind all of these big studios or get a deal out there. I can do it all in house.
No, I think it's fascinating because for for us as African Americans to have a place that we can, almost call our own. I mean, I know Atlanta's a very diverse city,
Yeah.
but a place that people can go to, at least with a pocket full of dreams, right?
Yeah.
And so as you watched it grow, have you seen any like glaring things in terms of maybe like either the economy, the jobs market, or the housing market that has kind of fluctuated with the Great Migration?
Oh, yeah. So I would say like maybe about 15, 16 years ago, it's kind of like when we were coming up in our days, right? When you first started in the football, things back then, you would thought like an act legend. That was that was the car. Like if you got to that point. Now, when you talk to people, it's like Bentley Bentayga. You know what I mean? Like, like the standard has changed, and that came along with the migration. I remember when, being young and, you're getting out of school kind of age and settling down for a family. If you moved 15, 20 minutes outside the city, I mean, you always had this thing. Atlanta was the place that you could come to, and around 600,000, I mean, you could live like a king, 3-car garage, 2 acres of land, and everybody, athletes live next door to people who are going on 9-to-5 jobs because you really didn't have to have millions to live big in Atlanta. But with the migration and money and things have changed. Now the entry level to be at that level has changed dramatically. And I think that two things really changed it a lot. I mean, we're now in a social media phase where, again, just like I was saying, like how Master P, like people realize, I don't have to go to this company to get money. I can do it. I mean, with this phone, so many kids are just realizing how to generate money and how to get knowledge and how to get an income. So there's a lot more money flowing here.
Man, when I was doing a little research on Atlanta, I was thinking to myself, how many income streams does a person need to have to live in Metro Atlanta nowadays?
Yeah,
because it has changed. I mean,
yeah.
my aunt moved from Gary, Indiana, out to Atlanta, and it was always the talk of, like you said, not needing an absorbent amount of money to live like you always wanted to,
Yeah.
and so that watching Atlanta go through that phase has been interesting. So Atlanta has enjoyed a few nice runs, none more than the one that it's currently on. So that is tackling something current, and now moving to tackling something real.
Mm-hmm.
As I look at the fascinating things that you've done in your life, I mean, worked for Terrence Howard, Puffy Combs, a high-end curator of luxury homes, a mixologist. I would think a person would need 3 continents and 2 lifetimes to do what you do, but you're managing to do it all within Atlanta, Georgia. Can you just talk to me about, the different things that you have made a living at and how they all play a part in the ecosystem of Atlanta?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Atlanta is a real, well, there's a couple of big things here. We have, obviously now we have Black Hollywood.
Wait. Actually, time out.
Yeah.
Tell us the things list off some of the things that you do in Georgia.
Okay. One, I'm a restaurateur. So, when people ask, like, what does that mean? Well, basically, I was in the restaurant business, and I'm at the point now where I basically come in as a consultant. So if you want to start a restaurant, I do it from front to back. So if you need anything, so if you need menu creation, chefs, buildings, location, style, concept, people will come to me and hire me as a restaurateur to develop. And that movement came along, I guess, with the reemergence of the restaurant business here, and that kind of ebbed and flowed, and I was in that world. And then, mixology became a thing at one point, and I kind of moved out of that and kind of rode that wave for a second. Mm-hmm. And, luckily for me, that got some write-ups. I won some contests. I won some awards. And, I always knew what the end goal was. I knew I wanted to have my own men's lifestyle. So in that, I've always incorporated these things because these were things I did personally. It was just the same way with, I was smoking cigars back in 1980s. Long before people thought it was cool. It was an old man thing.
Right.
And when I made it a young man's thing, is I had my, started a cigar lounge here, and people my age kind of got into it. And things with Atlanta, just like with any place, other people think it's cool. They see you dressing up, and we kind of went through that wave where, young guys wanted to dress up again.
Yeah.
Putting it on and kind of putting on suits and, pulling the pants up. And, being in that world already, coming from the fashion world, I kind of married the two things together and kind of started a movement here.
Did that coincide when Jay-Z told us to take the jerseys off and put a button up on? Was that around the same time?
Actually, it wasn't. It seemed like it. But what we did then, when that was when kids were still wearing the big shirts. Still baggy. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And, that was here in Atlanta, too, was big because, Ryan and Kenny, remember the Ryan and Kenny shirts with the diamond on the cufflinks?
Yep.
That was that time.
Okay.
That was that time. And so that was big here. And they're from Atlanta. They're big here. So that was another movement. Yeah. But the cigar game wasn't a young man's game. So one cigar lounge led to another cigar lounge. So that's another part of what I do. And then I was lucky enough to obtain some homes, and, I've been redoing them. I've done some in LA. I've done some here in Atlanta. And it wasn't that I promoted it that way, but when I went to sell the homes, celebrities showed up at the door, not because I advertised it that way or had some type of connection. It just was the sake, like, each home that I would do, a celebrity purchased it. And I don't know if that's some kind of cosmic thing, energy thing. I still can't explain it to people because I wasn't like calling up, different people like, hey, I got this house for sale.
Right. It was organic.
Yeah, it's just organic. It was just organic. So, and then when other people have friends and know that and see that, that's how the interior design, then that part took life. So that became another stream. I was always in fashion. And actually, before I went to NYU, I was accepted to a fashion school. I went to Hampton first.
Yep.
In Virginia. Yeah. Okay. And I ended up not going to the fashion school. I ended up getting a job for Diesel. But I was I don't know if you remember the company RP55.
Nope, not off the top of my head.
Yeah. So the guy that started RP55, he actually does Billionaires Boys Club, and he does T.I.'s brand, Aku.
Aku, yeah.
Yeah. So they're out of Virginia. And so when I came here, when I came here to Atlanta, I was still attached to that, coming from New York. So I always had the fashion background. Because I was in Source and Vibe magazine, like all those ads you would see in there. I was doing a lot of those ads back then. This was in the 90s,
Right.
And so, I've always incorporated that. And actually this that I'm wearing is one of my pieces I'm working on now.
No, that's funny. I was tearing my house up trying to find my hat because the hat that you have, I've got that as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things that caught my eye about your brand and how you run it is it's just it looks great taste, and it looks for a person who understands quality materials. And that's what I noticed about your mixology kit, your clothing. And so being able to kind of grow that arc in the city. I mean, I know you've lived in New York and stuff, but now that you're doing all that in Atlanta, like, can you tell me like how do all those things work together in a city like Atlanta, because with networking and all the people there, I mean, businesses just start themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So Atlanta is a town where people just come together like a very social town. And now, and I was thinking about that this morning, I'm like, I wish I would have thought of this idea myself, because I used to have an event space. And now this kid came along and he has what's called the gathering spot. And it's basically like, it's kind of like that place, like what is it, like WeWork. So it's like,
Okay.
right, but it's like Black people. So it's like a meeting spot. You have offices that you can just use at your disposal. You have like a conference table. You have and there's a restaurant aspect, so you can kind of sit in a lounge and meet with people. And years ago, I used to kind of camp out at different restaurants at lunchtime and basically hold court. Like different people would come and go, and I was having meetings all day long. They just knew me,
Wow.
and I'm like, I wish I would have had that idea, because again, going back to where, I mean, Atlanta's basically Wakanda at this point. There's a community and a culture that can support that. There's enough entrepreneurial Black people here that don't work in an office, or better than working at home, step out to a place like the gathering spot with other people and have meetings and talk about their brands or their ideas. And because we're Black people as a whole, and because we're in that whole, I guess, like social media space, people want to be out. They want to be seen. Like the kids say, we outside. You know, people in Atlanta, we always been a club and a lounge at, place. But see, now it's a 24/7. People want to be out for lunch. People want to be out for brunch. It's huge here right now. Wow. Because they want to be seen. They just want to be out taking pictures of themselves and talking to other people and meeting. So that culture is really big. So in my part, all that stuff ties together, because in any one of those aspects, you've got fashion, you've got the drinks, you've got everybody wants the interior design, because people like now, like I'm sitting in my house, everybody now, especially after COVID, everybody wants to fix their house. Nobody wants to sit in a basic house. They want it to be personalized. And so when they get on social media, it looks good. And I get a lot of calls for that too. Like with the interior design, I have a guy, and all he does is he wants me to create, content houses. So that other people come and rent it for content. So I have a client list of content houses. Wow. And then what the other thing is now is the rental thing, where people are renting it out just for like a couple of hours. So like Microsoft will come, or somebody just wants to have a meeting, but they want to have these great looking spaces like this. And so people hire me to create their space to look good online, so that companies have almost like a private lounge. So it's like got the bar area, lounge area, conference table all in one. And if me and you want to have a meeting here, 12 people, we could do that.
I mean, one thing I always talk to athletes about is controlling your environment, and, having the ability to have rent these places for these content curating. That's the definition of controlling your environment. And so, no, I mean, I look at things like Vector 90, these other co-op spaces. I think, I forget the couple that tried to do the co-op workspace in Atlanta, and they were trying to raise all the money for it, and people were calling it a scam. and it's funny because, I thought, similar like you, like it's a great concept. And if you would have the buy-in of the people, then it could be viable. But if you kill it before it gets going, and there's I don't know the business of that deal. I just know that like you said, a co-op space for people to do business in should work.
Yeah. I was surprised. I was like, I really thought at first, I was like, how long, Atlanta goes through phases. I was like, how long is this gathering spot thing going to take? But the way the culture is going, I think it's here to stay. I think the way that we have transformed, and the way businesses have transformed in the way that people operate here. This culture is here. And again, like you said, going back to the migration part, the migration happened, Wakanda happened, it's just like social media happened. I don't think we're going in the other direction. I think they're going to have so many members that, like they've already got one in DC. I think they have one in LA. I think we're going, that flow. I think it's here. I think just like this, I'll say this about it. When COVID happened and everybody realized, I could work from home, and companies were okay with that. Mm-hmm. I think the same thing with this whole communal gathering in this workspace and communal space. I think it's here to stay. I think it's the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, obviously COVID taught a lot of companies that they can operate at a lot leaner, efficiency rate. And, it's truly fascinating. All of the industries that are specific to Atlanta. And, I look at the number of food trucks, you guys lead the way in women, minority business owners. And that is a place, I was looking at the total amount of small business loans that Atlanta has given out since, 2020 up until today. And it far exceeds a lot of other metropolitan cities. That's no coincidence. And so Atlanta is going to put on and lead the way, whether you like it or not. Yeah. So I love it. And I think that's an interesting thing. So that is tackling something real. And mm-hmm. now to tackle something controversial. Mm-hmm. Okay, you ready for this? You ready? Okay. Yeah. So sticking to Atlanta. Yeah. Atlanta is no stranger at being progressive with the politicians and its leaders alike. Oh, yeah. But your district attorney mm-hmm. Has really gone above and beyond to stop the crime in Atlanta. Yeah. She has pulled out all the big guns. I mean, RICO charges that were only made for, the biggest, most dangerous criminals. She's attacking these gangs that are putting crime in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Tell me, as an Atlanta resident, what do the residents think about district attorney using these tactics? Yeah, I think it's mixed. I think that there's two sides to everything, and I think that when you get to be, like you say, a person of a certain age, I think they're all for it. I think the younger crowd sees it as a personal attack, because just like us, it was like when we were younger, and I'm a kid from the 70s, we were thinking, when Luke Skywalker came along and he had to go to court to get out of, being like, they tried to shut hip hop down. They tried to shut Tupac down. They tried to shut Luke down. I think that that's one affront that people are feeling like, because, using the music, using that as part of the charges is part of it. And I think even hip hop is now starting to come around like, here we go again. We're right back to where we started. But there is the other part. And the reality is, as much as I'm a fan and I understand it, Atlanta has really changed as far as crime. And these kids are living like how they say, like living it out in real life. It's like the movie and the real life. There's no separation here. That's the other part of Atlanta. These kids are broad daylight, and there's always something over and over, to the point where you're like, this isn't like a stray bullet kind of thing. Like how when we were younger and the drive-bys, we're like, oh, and then a kid got hit by a stray bullet, and then they wanted to go back to hip hop all the time. I don't think this is the same connection. I think this has become just blatant disregard, and these kids don't really see the consequence. They're just living it
going. They're just going. And I'm not that old where I don't feel connected and understand, but I'm seeing the disparity of the two things. And it's not the same. So you got two parts, you got people who are in the community and of a certain age who are just like, hey, you know what? However, we got to get this done. We got to get this done. Mm-hmm. But then you got the upfront. So I think, you got to remember also too, she's a disruptor. I mean, there was a big scandal.
And let me just say her name is Fani Willis, right? Is that am I pronouncing that right? Fani Willis?
So. I think it's either Fanny or Fani. She's a Howard graduate, actually.
Yeah, district. I don't want to disrespect, but it's district attorney Fani Willis. So go ahead.
Yeah. And her dad was a Black Panther. I didn't know.
Really?
Yeah. No. But she made her name here because she worked as a district attorney for 16, 17 years before becoming the district attorney, I know. Yeah. And there was a big cheating scandal here because what they were doing was the schools and the people in the school system were getting all this bonus money from the state for the kids doing well. So all these people were getting together and doing the scores for the kids, basically.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, you remember that? That was a big thing. So she was a part of, that's when her name got really in the thing. So there was a problem in Atlanta, and then, the Trump thing came along. So she's tackling now her big thing. I mean, she does the big things. She's not, just kind of here and, things are going along and crime is getting handled. One of those people where they come on and, we did 17% of this or 34% of that last year. Not that kind of person. She's going head on, to the big things. I think the only thing that kind of rubs people wrong is, again, the lyrics and the music.
Using that.
Yeah. I think that's the only thing that she's done so far. I think everything else, I think she's spot on. I don't think people on both sides of the coin, the disparity, I don't think that they're mad at her for what she's doing. I think it's only the part where they went in and said, we're going to try to use, the lyrics from the songs and stuff like that. I think that's the only part on one side that I feel that people are really upset about.
No, I mean, listen, every race that has come to America largely has propped themselves up on crime. And then they were able to legitimize their businesses over time. Yeah. And so, they were never really prosecuted except for, but African Americans seem to be the one race that, and it's probably because our time is coming in 2023 and not 1920, 1910, where there was not the technology and stuff. But, I think that, when you look at a businessman like yourself with a beautiful family and you're trying to handle all of these business things in Atlanta, and then you've got this influx of just horrible crime. Like you said, broad daylight shootings, muggings, and business owners having to protect their businesses with firearms, our buddy Shaka Zulu, who's a good friend of of the program. And I just hate to see what happened to Shaka happen right now, and for him to be charged after protecting his business is just devastating. But I always wonder, right? We're at that age where we grew up with hip hop, right? But now we've got kids and we've got 401ks and all that. And so while we might be able to turn up to the Migos in the car, we don't want to have to deal with the crime. So, man, I always wondered what that Great Migration, how that had the impact on that.
Yeah. I think as far as it being correlated to crime, I think I've only seen it high at these when Katrina happened, and they tried to say when the crime spiked, they tried to say, people coming from Texas and New Orleans here, that migration, because we had a lot of people come. And, they tried to say, now the spike in crime is all these people migrating from New Orleans. That's what they tried to, say in Atlanta. That was the kind of the undertone, right?
Right.
But see, now I think I don't know why. I don't know if it's social media. I don't know if it's us as a whole, because even in New York, I see like the same kind of context with the young generation with the drill, and the same thing in Chicago. And these kids are just like, I mean, they carry gun like Skittles, like just holding it everywhere, just out. And they're not afraid to say what they did or how it's going. But Atlanta followed suit. That's all I can say. It's like sometimes it's like what's that game? The one the kids all play with the oh what's the game the kids all play with it, where it's got a GTA.
Grand Theft Auto, yeah. Oh, they do that in real life, right?
Yeah. I mean, they shut the highways down here like every other night. Every other night, they're like I'm serious. Like the entire 75, we have 75, 85, 285 here, right? Like three major numbers. I mean, it's not a weird thing to see hundreds of kids out there all the time racing and shutting it down, doing the donuts, like the fireworks are going off. Just yesterday, these kids are out there. They've got some new area now because they're increasing the police force. It's called Police City. So it's like one of those training fields where they got like the things. These kids are out there throwing Molotov cocktails at the police while they're trying to train. I mean, like, and don't care.
Just, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Man. No,
I mean, who does that?
No, it's a trip, right? So, me, Tank Johnson, I famously, when I was playing in the NFL, was arrested for having, my guns at my house, and, and that's probably one of the most notable things that people knew about me, but you've never seen me in a picture with a gun, because generationally, like here I am known for at least having guns, but because of the generation, you've never seen me in a picture with one. So no, I just, listen, but my last question on that is, it seems like there's an attack on hip hop in Atlanta. Can hip hop specifically continue to thrive while being under attack like this? Because she's made it, and she Ms. Fonnie Willis has made it in no uncertain terms. We're trying to get you out of Atlanta. So can hip hop and that area of Wakanda thrive with Ms. Fonnie Willis?
That's a good question. I don't know if I really have the answer. I don't know if this could be the possible change. Hip hop goes through flows. Yeah. You know what I mean? We had the gangster rap era, we had the backpack era.
Remember self-destruction.
Right.
Headed for self-destruction.
Right. That's what I said. We had the Tribe Called Quest generation, the jungle, the brothers. Yeah. I've rode through I've seen it all. I've seen it right from the beginning, So I don't know. That's a good question. If we get joined, my kids are here, so if we get some little joiners in, we.
Oh no, we're almost finished. This is the wrap up. So that is tackling something controversial, and finally, we're gonna get you out of here on the rapid fire. If you could do only one job for the rest of your life, what would it be?
The men's lifestyle store.
Favorite family vacation destination?
Family vacation. Not the wife and me.
What? Just whatever.
Oh, Greece.
Greece? Why?
Yeah. It's the vibe. It's the whole vibe. It's the vibe. It's just it's something settling in it.
Who is your favorite boss of all time?
Oh. Give me a second. I'm so bad with names. Not Jay-Z, but who?
Biggie?
No. Who works with Jay-Z or used to?
Dame Dash. Wow, I love it. Okay, and finally, that boss who was your favorite boss, what was the most significant piece of advice he gave you or he showed you that you still use today?
Put your own money up.
Put your own money up.
Put your own money up.
All right. Well, Brother Reg, you have came, you have saw, and you have tackled a new kingdom.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, my brother, for being a guest on my show.
It's been a pleasure, man. It's been a pleasure.
Man, thank you so much.